Shalom, I'm Lars Enarson with the Elijah Prayer Army. In this video alert, I want to give you a praise report, a victory report concerning the so-called peace conference that was held in Paris on January 15. We had asked all of you to not only pray but also to fast, that God would stand up and fight for his people, just like it says in Psalm 83 when that talks about the conspiracy against Israel in the end times to remove the land away from God's people. I want to begin this praise report by reading from Psalm 33. And we're going to start in verse 6. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth. He gathers the waters of the sea into jars. He puts the deep into storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the people of the world revere him. For he spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood firm. The Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the peoples. But the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he chose for his inheritance. We have to remember that the God who created the universe, who is the ruler over all the earth, he is called the God of Israel. And here it says he foils the plans of the nations. And that is exactly what happened in the peace conference in Paris. What the nations had planned to do, they had called together 70 nations to be represented. And you know that in the Bible, 70 represents all the nations of the earth. So they had called together, and their plans were to build on what happened in the Security Council on the 23rd of December 2016, where they ruled in the Security Council that the borders from the war of 1967, before it broke out, that is the border for a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. And now they had hoped for a unanimous voice coming out from the peace conference to declare a Palestinian state without any negotiations with Israel, that Israel has to accept a Palestinian state based on the words of the unanimous decision of the nations. And that is what was foiled on that day because we prayed. We have to remember that we're not just called to be spectators in what is happening. We are called to be watchmen on the walls of Jerusalem, crying out to him day and night for him to fulfill his purposes and his plans for his people Israel. So that is so important that we understand this. Some people think that, whatever God has said that he is going to do without us praying for it. That is not the message of the Bible. God is calling us to pray for his will to be done in the earth. That's what our Master taught us to pray. This is how you're to pray. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now we have to also address this issue where it says in Joel chapter 3 that God is going to judge all the nations because they have divided his land. So some people say, well, if that is going to happen, how can we pray against it? We have tried to explain this over the past 6 months in our prayer alerts that actually this prophecy has already been fulfilled. The nations have more than once divided God's own land. But that does not mean that they have been able to implement that decision on the ground in Israel. And I do not believe that the two-state solution will ever be implemented here in the land of Israel. God is going to foil that plan, and in the end, it is going to bring about the last war against Israel, where the nations will march against Jerusalem in war. And in that battle, even though it seems like the nations will succeed to a certain extent in the beginning, according to Zechariah 14, the Messiah is going to intervene to defend his people. So our calling is to pray for God's will to be done. And God's will is not that this nation, this land, is going to be divided. So God heard our prayers. The peace conference in Paris was a great disappointment for the organizers. Their plans did not succeed, and according to reports, it even ended in great confusion and disarray towards the end. Great Britain refused to sign the final document. Also, Australia refused to sign the final document. May God bless those nations, and He will, because those who defend Israel, God will defend and bless them. So the plans that they had for this peace conference, it was totally, it came to nothing. And in Israel, they are breathing a sigh of relief because a great danger against Israel was averted. Whereas among the Palestinians, they are furious, and especially they are upset with Great Britain. Now, we had asked, and many of us had prayed that Great Britain would play a vital key role in the peace conference in Paris, and that's what they did. They refused to send their foreign minister to the conference. And by the way, of all the 70 nations represented, less than half were represented by their foreign ministers. And the new UN Secretary General did not attend the conference either. So it was not this strong, unanimous voice coming out from the peace conference in Paris. God certainly heard our prayers. He foiled the plans of the nations. And friends, this is such an encouragement to us that we should continue to stand in the gap for Israel, to continue to fast and pray for God's will to be done here in the land of Israel, because that is going to bring about, in the end, the return of the Messiah and the peace that will come from Jerusalem to all the nations of the world. Before then, we're going to see the final uproar against the Messiah, described over and over again in the prophetic word, but God is going to have the final word. And so the intercessors are waking up, and we thank God for all of you who are standing firm on the walls of Jerusalem. Let's continue to pray and watch in prayer for Jerusalem and for Israel until we see the Messiah return. We're called to prepare the way for him, and all of you in the Elijah Prayer Army, you are such an important part in the unfolding of the prophetic word. So God bless you. May He strengthen you, and may He bless you as you pray for the peace of Jerusalem. God bless you, and shalom from Israel.